It's WA2 season, and my Sec 4 just texted me. He scored almost full marks for his WA2, and he's in Sec 4 E-Math. And these are the three things that I do very, very differently at the center, that compared to other centers or compared to how you even study in school with your teachers, that makes a huge difference. And I wholeheartedly believe that was what helped him almost score full marks, right? I'm pretty sure he's like in the top of his class or maybe even his cohort, right? So the first thing that I do differently with my students at the center is I don't just teach them the concepts, I get them interested. You know, it's one thing to tell you and one thing to tell the students that, okay, you need to know this formula, this is how you apply it in exams. That's one thing, right? Another thing is, how does this even relate to you in your life, and how does this even work, right? What's the mechanics under the formula, and why is the formula structured the way it is, right? In my classes, I take a lot of time to explain this because I want students to be able to appreciate the formulas that you learn and be able to see how it actually works and not just blindly apply it, right? And for this student of mine, he's a very, very curious learner, and to the point that he texts me very, very regularly to ask me questions. And not only that, but in class, he also engages actively in discussion. And he always would ask me to elaborate further on the points that I raise in class whenever I'm trying to convey a message on how a formula works or how a concept actually works underneath the hood. So that's the first thing. I make sure not just to teach, but to help you understand. The second thing is that apart from teaching secondary math, right, I also teach JC math. So being able to teach both subjects at two different levels, right, I'm able to bring some concepts from the JC level down to the secondary level. And I'll give you a very, very classic example for this. So in JC, there's this topic called linear regression. And basically it's just teaching you how to sketch a best fit line, right, using statistics. And in secondary school, when you take bio, when you take physics, when you take chemistry, more often than not in labs, right, in your experiments, you will have data and you need to plot a best fit line. So what I teach my students is how to plot the accurate best fit line based off the points that you gather in your science exams. And how you do it is basically a trick on your calculator that helps you calculate, the gradient and the y-intercept of your best fit line, right? And I pull that concept from the JC side to teach them, because why not, right? If it helps you in your secondary journey, just use it, right? Math is math. Math don't see A level and O level, right? So this is the second thing that really separates the classes that I teach at the center compared to other places, right? I bring relevant concepts from the JC side to the secondary side to help my students improve and, more importantly, use math to score better in exams. And last but not least, I wholeheartedly believe that this was the last factor that helped him to score almost full marks. And that is, we practice and we do weekly tests. Ask any of my Sec 4 students and I grill them weekly. I give them test papers every single week at the center under time conditions. And we will debrief and make sure we redo the whole paper again. And after each debrief, when I mark and return them the paper, I give them a fresh new set of paper to go and redo the whole paper from scratch. And I wholeheartedly believe that this was what made the difference, because it is one thing to take your corrections in class and try to learn from your mistakes, but it's another thing to go and redo the paper to see whether you actually learn from your mistakes or not. And it's through repetition and repetition and repetition that we were finally able to help him score this almost full marks score, and I'm very, very happy of his achievement for him. So to all parents and students watching this is how we do things differently at the center. If you feel like this is a good fit for you in your learning, regardless if you're secondary or JC or even primary, do WhatsApp the number on the screen over here. I'd love to share more with you of how we actually conduct our classes at the center. Thanks for watching.